Welcome to the Brain Picker Pro Show, live from Lake Wiley, South Carolina. I'm at my home office today, and I am really, really excited. You can probably tell my voice, I'm fighting a cold, but that's okay. We're going to get through it. So I'm really excited today because today I have a special guest, a guy who is just crushing it in his market, okay? He is just crushing it. And the cool thing is he hadn't been doing it this long, right? So please give a warm welcome to my good friend Lance Wakefield. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How about yourself?
Good.
So,
sounds like you may have had better days, but still got enthusiasm over there.
I know, right, man? It's called fake it till you make it, right?
I love it.
So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've got 3 kids. I had child number 3 10 days ago.
Wow, so, congratulations.
Thank you. I've got a 6-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and I have a beautiful wife. And we live in Dallas, Texas area. We moved here in 2015, and I started wholesaling in 2016. And got into it. I made about $100,000 my first month and never looked back. So After that, I doubled down, invested in marketing and scaled, and we were at a point where we were doing a ton of deals end of last year, and with a business partner, and I split off and went on my own beginning of this year.
Right.
And so I'm kind of rescaling up on my own now,
right,
and hope to be back at scale at the end of this year.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about, now you're wholesaling, right?
Yeah.
Good. Now you're in a very competitive market also.
Crazy competitive market.
I know, right? I know. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what does your business look like as far as people and what do they do and that sort of thing?
That's a great question. So we have, on the team right now, we've got an ISA who kind of takes all the incoming calls. I also have a small team of outbound callers.
Tell our listeners what an ISA is. They may not understand.
ISA, good point. ISA is inbound sales assistant. Essentially, they answer phones when they ring, and they take those go to hell calls for us.
A lead manager.
So that, lead manager. She manages our leads. She's the first point of contact at the business. So when somebody calls in, everybody pretty much goes through her.
That's awesome. And is that 24/7 or is that just until 5?
She works. I think she's about 9 to 6, and then we've got a couple different things to cover a little bit later in the evenings. But we don't. If anybody calls us at 2 in the morning, we call them back the next day.
Right. It's going to
they gotta have a certain work-life balance. So
right there you go.
So she handles that. Then I've got 2 acquisition managers. They get property under contract for us. She disperses the leads out to them. Once they get the properties under contract, they hand the contracts over to a transaction coordinator.
Right.
Who gets them through title. Once they're through title, she hands them over to our dispositions person. We market the properties through buyers lists and different platforms like, Connected Investor, things like that, Facebook.
Right.
And then once they're under contract with the end buyer, we hand them back over to the transaction coordinator, and she closes them out with the title company.
That's awesome. That's
pretty much it.
Man, you got a machine going on.
Yeah, man. Just force those dollars into marketing, and the leads turn up, They just go through the system, and for every so many people that we reach out to, so many people become leads. From those leads, we have conversion, and it's a numbers game at the end of the day.
That's sweet. I love it. So, a lot of people I interview on this show, we talk about marketing, right? Because marketing is the lifeblood of the business, right? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
We do direct mail. In my busiest months, I've sent out probably around 200,000 pieces of direct mail.
Wow.
Right now, we're averaging about 80 to 100,000 pieces of direct mail a month. And That's our specialty. We do some internet marketing as well, and we also do some cold calling.
Okay,
so
cool.
Those are our three main methods for generating leads.
So tell us about your list. What kind of list do you mail, and what do you send to them?
So our postcard is pretty generic. Our copy is just a white postcard, black font, saying we want to buy your house. I'm a firm believer that copy doesn't matter a ton. Your list is more important. It's not like you're going to get a postcard in the mail and be like, oh my goodness, someone wants to buy my home. Honey, we're selling. We're selling the house. We're leaving. That's not how it works.
Right.
They get the postcard and they're like, yeah, I've been thinking about selling for a while, and I'll see what this guy has to say.
Right.
So I'm not going to generate or create motivation from the copy on the card. So,
you just catch them at the right time.
Yeah, it's all about catching them at the right time. For me, it's more about the list. So, I've been using ListSource lately and just doing an equity list, and pretty generic. I don't want anybody that's bought or sold the property in the last 5 years. The DFW Metroplex has seen a huge increase in property values, essentially since 2011 through now. If somebody bought it in 2011 or prior, they have equity.
Right.
I'm doing some equity searching, but I'm not real heavy on the equity. I just want to know they've owned the house for basically more than 7 years.
Right.
As long as I pretty much know they're good. I prefer also targeting people who are older. We don't get a ton of people that are 32 selling us their homes, so we're mostly hitting people 50 and over. And that's pretty much my criteria. I'm looking in the areas that I have buyers in. I have buyers in all the areas, but just the areas where there's more demand.
Right.
So that's the big thing I'm targeting, is just those areas where there's a lot of demand from buyers. So we're targeting those areas, and then the areas that we're mailing, we're also trying to cold call in those same areas. So we're kind of hitting them with two different approaches, and then we're doing some different pay-per-click stuff. Not big time on that, only spending a couple $1,000 a month on that right now, experimenting to see where we want to invest more capital or more marketing dollars on the online platforms.
Now, with the cold calling, how do you get the phone numbers? Are you calling the same list, and how do you get the phone numbers?
Yeah, we skip trace the phone numbers, and yeah, we're calling some same lists.
What do you use, TLO or something like that?
Yeah, LexisNexis offers a bulk skip trace offer.
Right.
So you upload, 10, 20, 30,000 at a time and get the phone numbers for all of them. And then we upload those spreadsheets into dialers, and our virtual assistants get on the dialers and just dial for 8 hours a day.
That's awesome. That's really good. Now, are you using Mojo or Vulcan or?
Yeah, we use Mojo.
Mojo. How do you guys like Mojo?
It's good. I wish it had a little bit more as far as it gives me a lot of metrics. It just doesn't give me an easy way to interpret those metrics. So I'm working with a different VA right now who's helping us to build out our dashboards. We already have a dashboard for all of our leads and money in, leads in, contract periods, all that stuff. We don't have anything for cold call specific, so we're building out a dashboard for it right now so that we can have more live important data for that. So
that's good. That's good. You mentioned about a dashboard and follow-up system. That's very, very important, especially with direct mail, because you and I both know you don't get your deals, all of them, on the first mailing or on the first contact. So you got to continuously follow up. What kind of CRM do you use?
We use a CRM called Pipedrive. It's really basic, but I like it. It's simple. I could show you it, and you could figure out how to use it in a couple minutes. And that's what we like. It's, Salesforce or Podio and a lot of these different CRMs, they're so robust and they're so capable of doing so many things that it can get super complicated to understand how to use them and train on them.
Right.
What I like about Pipedrive is it is intuitive and simple and really, really easy to use. It doesn't have some of the bells and whistles that we would like, but how easy it is to use, it kind of makes up for it. And it's also cheap. It's crazy cheap compared to some of those other CRMs. So we can afford to pay a VA, $5 an hour to do some small different things for us throughout the month and give us a lot of the same piece of information that we would get if we had invested in a more robust CRM.
Right. Now, what do you use for follow-up, like follow-up autoresponders and text messaging and ringless voicemail and stuff like that?
That's a great question. As far as follow-up goes, we don't have a good system right now. That's actually on my list of things to do, is figure out how we're going to create more automation in our follow-up. Right now, we do a lot of manual follow-up, which, as you know, can be very time intensive. And so we're looking. If anyone has any good advice for a good follow-up system, I'd love to look at it. We do it. I mean, at the end of the day, follow-up wins the game with pretty much any sales. And so for us, we spend a lot of time doing follow-up. We're getting so many leads in now. We've got to figure out a way to get the follow-up off the acquisition manager's plates and onto an automated system.
That's good. Now, there you go. Now, Podio offers a good follow-up system, and there's some other ones out there, as you know, like FreedomSoft or RealFlow or REI Black Book. They're just out-of-the-box type systems. But we use Podio. We like it. So you mentioned about a VA, the VA. Is it a VA in the States or in the Philippines or what?
Both. We have people that work for us here inside the USA. Most of the people who are interfacing with, all the people basically that are interfacing with clients are from the United States.
That's a great move. That's a great move there.
Yeah. Our VAs are from, our cold calling VAs aren't from the USA, but their touch is so short that, and the amount of volume they're able to do, I feel makes up for it. And so we do have our cold callers are outside the USA. Everybody else who works remotely for us is inside the USA.
That's a good point. Now, when your inside sales assistant or your lead manager, when they take the call, are they booking an appointment with everybody that'll set an appointment, or how do they handle that?
No, actually, all they get is a few pieces of information and pass it on. So, my personal belief is that there's a lot of rapport that can be built through a lot of the scripting questions that a lot of my competitors have their ISAs go through. My ISAs get name, phone number, and property address. That's it. They may ask for an email.
Wow.
They don't do anything.
That's it.
Because my personal opinion is that a lot of guys like them to ask how much they want for the house, right? My personal opinion is that is a very, very important, sacred question. That's not something you just ask off the bat. I think that it's something that you build a lot of rapport. Once the rapport has been built and the client's comfortable with you, then you ask that question. And to ask it early is generally going to give you a higher number. If their bottom line is $150,000 for a property and your ISA says, hey, how much? They're like, 200,
Right.
But if you spent time building a relationship with that client and you spent time understanding their needs and what's most important to them, and you can speak to them in their language, and then you ask them that question, it may not be 150, but it probably won't be 200 either.
It's going to be closer,
a shorter, there's a lot less negotiation that needs to happen to get them to that bottom dollar point for them.
There you go. That's great. So, obviously you have a lot of competition in your area. So what are you doing? Give our listeners an idea as to what you're doing to set yourself apart, because I'm sure when your acquisition guys go in the house, you know, the homeowner's got a stack of cards, postcards this high probably from other, you know, wholesalers or other investors.
Yeah. So the big thing, well, right there is something we do different. We contract 9 out of 10 properties without ever having been to them. So
what?
We don't go to the property. And so that's initially one thing we do to set ourselves apart.
Wow. Now, how do you do that? Explain that.
Well, you only need to go to the property if you tell the seller that you need to go to the property.
Right. That's a good point. So, what about, I'm sure somebody goes afterwards to look at the condition, take pictures and all that.
Yeah, we estimate repairs over the phone. I mean, I've estimated repairs on over 1,000 homes now over the phone, and as long as the seller is honest with me, my estimates are pretty dang close. Like, you don't necessarily need. I mean, if you're working on, you know, homes that were built in 1910 and you're trying to do an add-on and this and that, yeah, you got to be there and see it.
Right.
But if you're looking at 1975 322, there's not a ton to it. You know, it's got 2 bathrooms, it's got a kitchen. If you put decent looking flooring throughout the house, it is the square footage that it is. Paint per square foot costs what it costs. The only reason that you need to go to the property is to verify that what they're saying is true. So, you know, we're going to ask them, you know, what condition is the foundation in, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, when was the kitchen updated, all that stuff.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes people lie, and that's fine. I only have $100 earnest money on the property. I have a 15-day option for $50. So whatever. You know, if they really want to lie and we go out to that property, my worst case is I lose $100. Well, okay. I'll suffer that loss.
Right.
And it's honestly, in hundreds of deals, it's happened a handful of times. I mean, we're talking 9 out of 10 times. We're on the same page and honesty is there. And, you know, 1 out of 10, it's not a dishonest thing. It's they just don't know. You know?
Right.
Some of them compared to the property, they haven't seen it in 20 years. They have no clue.
Right.
And so that happens more than someone being maliciously dishonest with us. It does happen. You know, I've had somebody explain a property to me, and they explained everything completely accurate. They just omitted the fact that a tree had fallen through the living room and destroyed most of the house. And so it's like, get out there. It's like, come on, man. You think we're going to notice that? Like, and so it happens, but it's just so infrequent that it really doesn't merit going out to the property.
So, so basically, if you're not going out and looking at the property, how many calls do you typically make, or how many touches does your acquisition guys have with the seller before they send them out of contract?
Generally 2 or 3 touches before a contract.
Okay. Now,
we're able to get the ARV without going to the house, right? You don't need to see the house at all for ARV. That's honestly pretty pointless to see the house to create an ARV. If you know the style of the home, the square feet, year built, which all that information's on tax, we can ARV it. And then the only area where it's like, well, there's some gray is in the repairs.
Right.
And we've got some strategies for how we estimate repairs and things. And that's all we do.
That's awesome.
So,
now, what kind of a closing timeline do you set up? 30, 60, 90 days, or, 15
usually
days?
45. Sorry.
45?
Usually 45 is our average, 30 to 45, somewhere in there. Try and get them from the day we contract. Within 48 hours, we have a runner out at the property, a lockbox on the property if we can, photos back in, and the contract is at title.
Right.
And so usually if there is a discrepancy with what we believe repairs to be and what they actually are, we try and address it within those first 48 hours.
That's good. That is really good.
That way, yeah, you get a really pissed off seller when you call them the day before closing and tell them, well, the repairs are more than we thought.
Right.
So
right. You don't want to do that.
We immediately say, hey, look, you said that it was this, or I understood that it was this,
right.
and what we're seeing is actually this. And so we got to figure out how to either make this work, which is either a price reduction or cancel a contract.
Man, that's awesome. That's really good stuff because most people do go out to the house. And it takes a lot of time and money to send an acquisition guy out to the house on every lead.
Well, we live in Dallas, we live in Texas, right? Texas is a big freaking place.
Right.
And, Houston or DFW, I mean, that Metroplex from end to end, 2.5 hours. And so for our guys to be an appointment in Southwest Fort Worth and then have to go to an appointment in Princeton, which is east of McKinney, I mean, far out, that's a 2-hour drive. And if you hit traffic, forget about it. Their day's shot and they go to 2 or 3 appointments. Where we're on the phones, we're touching 50 people a day. And so we totally lose contracts because we don't go to the property. We know that. Right. We also gain because we don't go to the property. So it's that give and take, We're creating a business that fits our lifestyle. One of my acquisition managers lives in Hawaii and the other one lives in Montana. They're not even here.
That's cool. How did you find them?
I went to high school with both of them. I grew up in Hawaii, and all 3 of us went to high school together in Hawaii. One of them moved to Montana, and the other one still lives out in Hawaii.
That's awesome.
They come into the office once, twice a month, but for the most part, and they'll go visit people. They'll coordinate so that you get that good old boy who's handshake, look in the eye, spit in your hand type of a guy, and we'll go out and meet with them. But most of them, we don't need to do that.
That's really good.
So,
but what kind of volume are you doing?
Right now, we're averaging about 15 contracts a month. We want to be at about 30 a month by the end of the year. Is where we're shooting for. So.
That's sweet. So, since your properties can be like 2.5 hours from into one market to the other, how are you selling your properties? Is it all buyer's list or Craigslist or what?
We don't do Craigslist anymore. We used to do Craigslist today. Man, we just had too many people show up at the seller's house and show them our ad on Craigslist and crap like that. It's just not worth the stress. Right. I think we only ended up selling a couple properties through Craigslist. So, so we don't do Craigslist, but Connected Investor, My House Deals, Facebook. I mean, there's the real estate investment Facebook groups here in DFW have 20,000 people in them. And we've got our buyers list in DFW, I think it's 26 or 28,000 people now.
That's great.
So between all of that, we get the property in front of a lot of the people that are looking.
That's awesome.
And we also, we're wholesaling more and more properties as well. So.
Okay. Are you putting them on the MLS?
So we get them under contract wholesale, just like we would. And then if the property is right, we will close on it and put it directly onto the MLS and sell it on the MLS.
Oh, okay.
There's criteria we're looking for. And sometimes, we'll clean them up. Like if it's got a hoarder or whatever living there or a cat lady, we'll clean it out, but we're not going to improve anything, but we'll make it clean.
Right.
If there's glaring issues, like we might patch up some stuff, but we're not going to be popping granite in or anything like that.
What's your average number of days you hold a property?
Oh, not long. When we're putting them out, we're putting them out as deals on the MLS. Okay. So we get multiple offers. Usually we're under contract within 5 days.
Okay. That's really good.
DFW market's crazy. I mean, if you've got a property under $250,000, it's a deal. You're going to have 10, 20 offers on it. It's competitive right now for anything that could be a rental, basically, not a rental price point. Wow.
So what does a typical deal look like? Average price, you're buying it for and selling it for?
Pretty typical would be around 200,000 to ARV, and maybe like 150, 200,000, somewhere in there. Pretty typical. We're generally contracting them at around 70 cents on the dollar, 65 to 70, less repairs. Right. And we're generally selling them at about 80 cents on the dollar, less repairs.
Wow, okay.
So,
that's good. That's
general. There's areas where guys will pay 85 cents on the dollar. There's areas where guys will pay 75 cents on the dollar. So it's in that range would be pretty typical for us. Every now and then we get that home run deal where somebody wants $30,000 for a $150,000 property, and we're like, great. But that's, not the norm. It happens once every couple months. But
Right.
That's pretty typical.
Man, that's really, really good. That's really good. So is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? I mean, man, this has been just phenomenal. I mean, I know we're just sitting here having a conversation, but, every time I hear something that, triggers something, I'll ask another question. And you just shared so much cool information. This is great.
Part of what I like to do is I'm a big believer in like my wholesale company is called Win-Win Home Buyers.
Right.
I'm a big believer in a win-win can be created when there's a deal to be created.
That's great.
And so one thing that I see a lot with a lot of wholesalers have come to me over the past couple of years and said, hey, mentor me, tell me how I can do better. And a big thing that I would push on them is to say, be ethical, be honest.
Yeah.
We're not going into a lot of these homes and saying, hey, we're buying your house. We're telling a lot of these people that we're going to resell their house. We're not trying to pull the curtain over anyone's eyes with our buyers. We try to be really straightforward. We're not so straightforward as, hey, we'll tell you what we have under contract at, because generally we find that people use that against us pretty harshly. But for the most part, we're really straightforward and we're really honest, and we're trying to always create that win-win experience for buyer, for seller, for us. We want people to be successful, and that abundance mentality has, in my opinion, been a huge reason that we've been so successful. Like, I'll share stuff because I'm not scared of people coming in and taking over. All the information I give out is available. You can find it online. It's not like this crazy secret thing, right? But a lot of people like to really keep everything close to the chest, and they'll screw over a seller and a buyer to make a buck. And I see that happen all the time, and I'm like, yeah, no wonder you're not successful. Who's ever going to do business with you again when you treat people that way? Exactly. And so I'd say that's a huge thing that sets me apart, because even in the real estate investment community as a whole, wholesalers are kind of the leftover. A lot of people don't like us that I've ever met. We're not as respected, and I think in a lot of ways it's because of the way a lot of wholesalers interact with a lot of investors as well as sellers. And so I would just say, overarching, that's the most important thing to me is I want people to leave having had a good experience. Now, I would say don't mistake kindness for weakness. Right. Just because I want to be ethical with somebody, when I have a seller that gets a higher offer and is in contract with me and is trying to screw me over, I'm not gonna just lay down and take it either. Right. But I do try and understand the situation and try and work through it in a effective way, rather than just emotional lash outs and things like that. So
right. So let me ask you another quick question before we go, and I really, really appreciate all you've shared. How do you show your houses? That's always a big concern, especially if it's occupied or if your sales guy doesn't go there or whatever. How are you showing houses?
We do go out there when we sell them. We always have a person present when we're selling, when we're doing a showing. It depends on the property, case by case, right? If it's seller occupied with a pissed off crazy seller, we're probably not going to do a showing. Right. We'll probably get one or two people in, buyers that we know that close and that have a good relationship with us, right, and are easy to work with, because we're probably going to have a seller that's difficult to work with. Last thing we need is a buyer and a seller that's difficult to work with. That just spells disaster. So we try and focus on having showings and going out to the property. But if we can't, we will figure out different things. Generally we can get a property sold, and we sell property sight unseen all the time. There's investors from New York, California, Miami, Seattle, Hawaii, and overseas that buy from us. Right. And those buyers just buy sight unseen.
Now, are most of your buyers fix and flip investors or landlords?
And it totally depends. In the DFW market, most stuff that's under about $200,000 could be a rental. The rental rates are good here, and so we have a lot of rental investors. There's a lot of really large funds and different things like that buy here DFW because the market's appreciating and cash flowing.
Right.
Like you can go to the Rust Belt and get great cash flow and zero appreciation or negative appreciation. You can go to California and get great appreciation and negative cash flow. But Texas offers both. It offers cash flow and appreciation.
Man, you get both there. That's awesome.
Yep.
That's really good. So,
plus Dallas is an extremely stable market. It's got, in the 80s, we were oil, right? Now we're like 20% oil. We're 20% insurance, 20% healthcare. We've got a really diversified, very stable economy. And so that just, makes it even that much sweeter. The recessions, like in the 2009, I only lived here for a few months in 2009 during the recession, but real estate didn't take that much of a dip here.
Right.
It dipped, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like Phoenix where you went from, $300,000 property to a $30,000 property or whatever.
Right.
In the recession, it was $300,000 to $250,000. So it wasn't as bad. So that there's a lot of factors like that make it attractive for people to invest here. And we love working with out-of-state buyers. They usually love the returns they get and are ecstatic for the deals we put out, whereas the buyers here are a little bit more, they'll complain a little bit more because they remember when the same house in Dallas 10 years ago cost $20,000, but we're selling them for $200,000.
Sure. Now, you don't rehab the houses or put a tenant in them, do you?
No, so I've done the landlording thing. I'm probably going to start building up a rental portfolio again.
Right.
And I'm toying with the idea of doing the occasional flip. I generally don't, but we've got enough systems and infrastructure in place now that we could. And so we're toying with the idea of bringing on a project manager to handle a handful of flips for us at any given time. We've got the deals, we've got the money, so it's like, well, why not?
There you go. That's good. So do you have any parting words of wisdom you'd like to share with our listeners?
I would say one of the most important things in this industry is your reputation and how you work with other people. Everybody asks me, how did I grow so fast? And that's my answer, is I treated other people fairly. I work really hard, but I treat everybody fairly so that when we do cross paths again, because if you're in a real estate investment community in your market, you will cross paths with people over and over and over.
Right.
I don't want them to have a bad taste in their mouth from me. I want them to always be like, he was fair. If nothing else, I was fair. I might not be the nicest guy in the room. I might not be the smartest guy in the room, but I try to be one of the hardest working and one of the fairest. And so I would say that those have served me well, and I don't see why they wouldn't serve anybody else very well.
Man, I really love that. That is great. We have a philosophy in our office that's very similar. I stole it from Truett Cathy. You know who Truett Cathy is, right? The founder.
No, never.
He's the founder of Chick-fil-A, the only fast food restaurant closed on Sunday. That should tell you something. But
yes, sir.
But he has a business philosophy that we've adopted at our office, and we put it on everything. It's called people and principles before profits. When you do that, everyone profits.
Yep. I mean, Chick-fil-A is it's got to be one of the fastest growing fast food restaurants in America. I mean, I see it going up all over the place. I don't know that at all.
Right.
I'm just guessing. But I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, everybody loves to talk about how much money they make, but when it's at the expense of other people, it's not worth it. It's just not.
Yeah.
So we try and live by that, and I am very particular about who I hire, and I want to make sure that they have principles like that, because being around those principles, if somebody has them, I can elevate them, right? But I can't create them in somebody.
Right.
And so if they're a person of low ethics or morals or whatever, I can't create that in them.
Right.
If they want to create that, I can help create a breeding ground where it can be created, but it's up to the individual. And so for us, it's super important that our people are this way too, because it doesn't do any good for me to be that way and then to hire guys who are schmucks, right? I've got to hire guys that are good guys that care about other people and doing people right. They also want to make money, and both can happen. They don't cross each other out, they coexist very nicely. And now we have people I have people calling me and saying, hey, I've got this deal. Can you help me sell it? I've got this. Can you help me with that? And it generates hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue for us every year, just based on reputation. And that's so awesome. It's paid me back just thousands of times over being ethical with people.
That's great.
And it's something that's overlooked so much, I feel, in particularly in wholesaling, but sometimes in the industry as a whole.
And that's something you can't train people to do. You hire the right person and then teach them the right skills.
Yep. That's what we try and do, and it's worked out great.
That's awesome, man.
I'm a huge believer in that. If those things are right, everything else will fall into place.
That's strong.
If those things aren't there, you're going to be battling it forever, and it's always going to be a miserable grind instead of something that you're proud to say you do and enjoy what you do. It's so different. And I've been in those businesses where it's a negative, whatever we can do to make a buck, and I hated it.
Right.
So I might be too far away from it. I'm trying too hard not to create it, but I don't care. I love it. I think it's great to interact with people that way.
Well, your success speaks for itself.
Well, thank you.
That's great. Man, I really appreciate it. What can our listeners do for you? I mean, feel free to give out your contact information if you'd like.
Yeah, reach out. If you're looking to buy property, if you're looking to do anything in DFW with real estate, reach out. My name again is Lance Wakefield. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Bigger Pockets. And if you want to buy properties from us, whatever you'd like to do, feel free to reach out. We're always looking for more buyers, always looking for new projects. I would say, I think you would know that finding a new, fun, interesting project to do is what helps keep this business and this industry interesting. So
that's true.
I always like looking at new things where I haven't done, where somebody needs to partner or whatever. And so I'm always open to stuff like that, just because it keeps things fun and interesting. It's really fun generating a ton of leads, but when you do it week after week after week, it loses its sex appeal a little bit. So
you're
always looking
right.
for new projects.
It kind of gets monotonous. Yeah. So speaking of that, what do you do in the business? I mean, you got acquisition people, you got a lead manager, a closing person, and sales guy. So what do you do in the business?
So I'm kind of I'll do some sales management where I'm working with our guys on hitting goals and all of that. I work on a lot of business development. Recently we partnered with 2 hard money lenders in the area. So when we send out a flyer to sell a property, they're on the flyer and you have links to their applications and those sorts of things.
Right.
But they're also verifying our numbers. Because everybody loves to say that wholesalers' numbers are bullcrap, and ours aren't. Ours are legitimate numbers.
Right.
And so both of these hard money companies are saying, we're going to lend at their ARV and according to their repairs because they're accurate. Right. They're not BS to make it a deal. And so all of that are types of things that I really enjoy doing is, hey, how could we be more effective? Where could we, how could we make more money? How could we do? And so I'm working on those sorts of things at any given time, different projects and different things. Like right now, I'm helping, my wife is kind of spearheading the internet marketing stuff, and I'm supporting in that and helping to find the right people who can spearhead that for us and doing those sorts of things. I also do some coaching on the side. And so I enjoy that a lot. I love watching clients excel and grow and do well.
Right.
So that's another thing that I spend some time doing every week. But I work about 30, 35 hours a week and then spend a lot of time with family. I mean, I've got 3 little kids, so I try to be there rather than in the office all the time grinding.
That's awesome.
But when I'm here, I work as hard as I can and get as much done as I can and stay as productive as I can.
That's sweet, man. I got to tell you, man, this has been just a great, great interview. And you just shared so much information. But the most important part of this whole thing is about how you run your business and how you do treat people the way they want to be treated and do fair, good, clean, honest, ethical business. You know, I got a saying, do it right, sleep at night. And I can tell you're living that. And I just appreciate you. You're an example for people in this industry. And I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me on. It's been great chatting with you today. And I wish your listeners the best of luck. And I think they've found a great podcast to listen to. So
Awesome.
Thanks for doing this.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. I do really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.